December 7th, 1941. Oahu, Hawaii is waking up to a day that would become one of the darkest chapters in America's military history. A sound builds on the horizon. Hundreds of Japanese planes are approaching. But this time, something's different. Anchored near the entrance to the harbor is a modern U.S. Navy destroyer. Something that doesn't belong in 1941. A 21st century Arleigh Burke-class warship built to fight missiles and jets. Not slow propeller planes. Its radar is alive, its missiles armed. So the question is simple. Could one modern destroyer stop the attack on Pearl Harbor? Let's find out. The ship's radar scans the sky in every direction. It can track hundreds of targets at once. Inside, a crew of more than 300 sailors operate digital consoles, surrounded by the crackle of 1940s radio chatter. Then, just after 7:40 a.m., the first radar contacts appear. The destroyer picks up high-flying formations, Japanese level bombers, over 60 miles away. But the low-flying torpedo planes skimming just above the water stay hidden behind Oahu's hills until they're much closer, only about 12 to 15 miles out. That gives the crew just a few minutes to react. It's not much time, but it's enough. That's exactly the kind of situation this ship's Aegis combat system was designed for. As soon as the target is confirmed hostile, it can launch missiles within seconds. The destroyer's vertical launch system holds 96 missile cells. In a realistic loadout, about 40 of them carry long-range SM-2 or SM-6 missiles for shooting down distant aircraft. Another 16 are loaded with ESSMs, short-range Sea Sparrow missiles for nearby threats. A few more hold CRAM interceptors, the ship's final layer of defense against anything that gets too close. The destroyer also carries backup weapons, a 20mm phalanx Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds per minute, and a 5-inch deck gun that launches airburst shells designed to explode near their targets. But this is what's coming. The first Japanese wave, 183 planes, mixes torpedo bombers, dive bombers, level bombers, and fighter escorts. They're slow by modern standards, about 200 miles per hour. Torpedo planes have to fly low and straight for several seconds to line up a drop. Level bombers must fly steady to aim. That worked against 1941 anti-aircraft guns. It doesn't against radar-guided missiles traveling 3 times the speed of sound. At 7:45, the destroyer fixes its first targets. High-altitude bombers approaching from the north. The order comes down. Weapons free. Dozens of SM-2 missiles shoot from their launch cells, climbing, turning, and locking onto targets. The Japanese bombers have no radar warning systems, no flares, and no countermeasures. Nothing to tell them they're being hunted. Seconds later, explosions tear through their formations. Some planes disappear midair. Others spiral down, trailing smoke over the hills. In under a minute, nearly half of the 49 high-level bombers are gone before they can release a single bomb. Then the low attackers appear. Torpedo bombers fly just above the water, heading straight for Battleship Row, the line of U.S. battleships stationed along Ford Island. From the harbor entrance, the destroyer has a perfect line of sight. It launches ESSMs and SM-6 missiles in quick sequence, guiding several at once toward different targets. One by one, the torpedo planes explode over the bay, destroyed before they can release their payloads. Where dozens of planes once made torpedo runs, now only a few, maybe 5 or 6, survive long enough to drop. And even those drops are rushed and poorly aimed. Instead of precise torpedo hits tearing through battleships, the harbor is filled with splashes, missed strikes, and crashing planes. A few wrecks slam into parked aircraft or docks, but nothing close to the scale of devastation seen in real history. Then come the dive bombers, the Aichi D-3A Val types. These are tougher targets. They start high, dive almost straight down, and release their bombs low, giving defenders only a few seconds to react. The destroyer waits until the bombers finish their dives, then fires as they pull up to climb away. Missiles lock onto their hot engines and detonate in midair. The few that get through face the ship's close defenses. CRAM interceptors streak upward, and the phalanx Gatling gun fills the air with 20mm rounds. Any bomber that turns toward the destroyer is torn apart before it can release its bomb. By the end of the first wave, the destroyer has fired around 35 to 40 missiles and shot down between 25 and 40 aircraft, most of them bombers. Then comes a short pause. Smoke drifts across the harbor. The element of surprise is gone. By 8:15 a.m., a few P-40 Warhawk fighters are already in the air, and the destroyer still has plenty of firepower. Around 20 to 25 long-range missiles and most of its short-range defenses ready to go. Then, the second wave arrives. 171 more aircraft, mostly dive bombers and level bombers, flying higher and slower, expecting an unprepared target. Instead, they run straight into a wall of radar-guided fire. More than 60 miles out, the destroyer spots them and opens fire again. SM-2 missiles race into the sky, tearing through the bomber groups and breaking them apart long before they reach Oahu. The few that make it through face chaos below, hundreds of guns now firing from ships, airfields, and hillside batteries. Even old 50 caliber guns and 3-inch anti-aircraft cannons are firing non-stop. The sky over Pearl Harbor turns into a storm of smoke and metal. By 9 a.m., the attack is over. So, what does the battlefield look like now? In real history, 21 American ships were sunk or damaged. 8 battleships took direct hits. Arizona exploded. Oklahoma capsized. In this scenario, none of that happens. At the harbor entrance, the destroyer intercepts almost every torpedo attack. Bombers that once had clear runs are destroyed or forced to drop off target. Maybe 1 or 2 ships take some damage, but the fleet as a whole survives. Even if the destroyer were stationed inside the harbor instead of guarding the entrance, it would still change everything. It wouldn't spot the lowest torpedo planes until they were nearly overhead, so more would get through, but it would still shoot down many of them just after they dropped their torpedoes. Overall ship losses would likely fall by 60 to 70%. Casualties would drop too. In the real attack, 2,403 Americans were lost, most from torpedo hits and ammunition explosions inside the ships. Remove most of those hits, and the number drops sharply. There would still be attacks from low-flying planes, debris, and fires, but instead of thousands, the losses might fall to just a few hundred. Japanese losses, meanwhile, would skyrocket. Historically, they lost only 29 planes. With the destroyer present, another 60 to 70 would likely be shot down, over a third of their attacking force. Could the destroyer itself be hit? Possibly, but not easily. A 500-pound bomb could cause damage with a lucky direct hit, but that's highly unlikely. With advanced radar, layered missile defenses, and rapid-fire guns, it would be one of the hardest targets in the harbor. Even stationed at the entrance, the chance of a disabling hit would be under 10%. There would still be some collateral damage. Downed planes might crash into nearby ships or buildings, and missile fragments could scatter across the harbor. But compared to the devastation of the real attack, it would likely be minor. And maybe you're asking, how could one ship make such a difference? Short answer, technology. Aegis sees farther, reacts faster, and hits harder than anything in 1941. It doesn't need to outnumber the attackers. Just a few seconds of warning and a few dozen guided shots. Against slow, unarmored planes with no defenses, it's barely a contest. Even without firing, the destroyer's radar changes everything. 10 minutes of warning means guns manned, ammunition ready, and fighters in the air before the first bomb falls. A surprise attack becomes a coordinated defense. So in our scenario, Pearl Harbor still burns, but the picture is different. The Pacific Fleet stays afloat. Battleships are damaged but not sunk. The Navy's strength survives and can strike back within days instead of years. The Japanese lose a third of their planes and the element of surprise. Their carriers retreat without a decisive victory, while the American fleet remains ready to fight. A single Arleigh Burke destroyer at the harbor entrance wouldn't make December 7th a perfect day, but it would turn the tables fast. And what happens if every US state fought for control of the country? Watch the video on your screen now. Thanks for watching.